I'm ready. Are you ready, Stacy?
I'm ready.
What you didn't see is Stacy asked if I was ready right before we went live, so I'm ready.
Yeah. I got a different
So,
setup today, and I'm like, have this little camera, so I got to get used to my surroundings.
you're getting your social content all put together, are you? I love it.
The plan.
So here we are. We've kicked off the spring season. We've kicked off the fall season because it's September. It's
Yep.
September. Kids are going back to school. Um, sort of going back to school.
Mine started today, so it's another reason I might be a little out of sorts.
I'm right there with you. Ours started on Monday, and as we were talking about before we went live, I think this whole homeschool or distance learning thing is like any other habit that we have to build. What we really winged it last spring, and now here in the fall, we're just trying to make the best of it. And it's going to take a little bit to get used to that new routine.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's fun and exciting.
Pep talk this morning. I'll give it to my kids this afternoon.
So the silver lining of that is we're going to talk about in my opinion, one of the greatest shows on earth, the National Football League kicking off also in September. And we've got a guest joining us today to give their inside analysis of what the Seahawks will look like, what the NFL is going to look like under the COVID procedures that they have to follow now. But before we are joined by our great guest, Stacy, what are we going to do?
We're going to talk about where rates are at.
We're going to talk about where rates are at.
Right.
So there it is. They stayed relatively flat week over week, which is a good thing. A lot of questions came up. FHFA stepped back from their half-point hit, and the mortgage market's staying pretty steady. So it's still a great time. That half hit that FHFA is going to put on all conventional loans, it's still on the docket. It's coming in December, which means mortgage companies are going to start pricing that here sometime mid-September, late September. So if you want to get in before that happens, by all means, make your loan now, lock your rate, and avoid that half hit in fee. So that's kind of where
our general people watching, just a quick explanation on what that means, why we need to implement it in September when if they might see in the media that it's hitting December 1st.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the big secrets or hooks in this whole situation. FHFA says they're going to have a half hit in fee to all refinances sent to them in December. And so I don't remember the exact date in December, but we're right now for a refinance, we're typically 30 to 60, maybe a little longer than 60 days to get that refinance done. So though you make application today, we're not going to give it to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac until 2 months down the road. So that's why mortgage companies are going to start implementing it into their rate sheet here by the end of the month. You're going to see that adjustment on the mortgage applications going forward. So long as the bond market stays strong as it is, we will be able to outpace that half hit fee. But that's risky business. That's Russian roulette. You just never know until you spin that wheel if it's going to be there or not. So I would definitely say get ahead of that curve. We know it's coming. So if now's the right time, make it happen. The flip side to the half hit and fee, with rates being so low, it's an awesome opportunity for people to take advantage of low rates regardless of that half hit and fee, especially going into the winter months. It's a great time to take a look at those items. So that's why we're pricing it a month and a half, 2 months before we deliver to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac.
Yep, and that'll be standard across the whole industry. So
everybody delivering to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac are going to be adjusting the rate sheets by a 0.5 hit in fee. So so take advantage of it now. I think we will see that tick up come September, the end of September, above 3% again. That's my forecast. So, well,
I'm going to say no. I disagree. But yes, without further ado, let's bring in our guest. We can talk about this later.
Fair enough. Right on. Well, joining us, our local radio personality and man of mystery, Dori Monson. Dori, how you doing today?
Wait a second, what's so mysterious about me, Keith?
Nothing. You're very transparent on the
I'm not a man
radio.
of mystery. I lay myself bare for 3 hours every day on the radio. I'm like the least mysterious person in the region. Come on.
Well, we don't know what you do on Saturday and Sunday. I would imagine.
Yeah, we're gonna keep it that way too. Okay. All right.
We got a secret producer that can tell us all about it.
That's right.
Well, we know you're going to be on Sundays coming up here in just one more week, and that's talking about the Seahawks, and that's why you're joining us today.
Yeah, you got your jersey on there. I like it.
Go Hawks, man!
What number are we wearing? Which jersey is that?
It's number 34, Mr. Rawls.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah,
Like it.
I love that guy, and I was having a really bad time when I saw Chris Carson go down the same way that Rawls did.
Yeah. Yep.
This is not a good thing.
I know it. Yeah. So week from Sunday, Seahawks will be down in Atlanta, and this is the strangest season because first of all, if you go to the VMAC for the preseason, the training camp. Of course, they're doing all this COVID testing, and you got to get tested 24 hours before you go to get a field pass for those of us who are part of the broadcast team. But yeah, it's just a strange season because no preseason games. So you're just going from 0 to 100 miles an hour right off the bat. And that really makes the feel of this so incredibly unique here.
Definitely a unique time. Can you tell us about the current bubble culture the players and coaches are living in that you just alluded to?
Yeah, Stacy, the team has, fortunately, they're testing every single day because, like a lot of sports franchises, earlier this week, in baseball, the Oakland A's had a member of their team test positive, and so they had to cancel their series against the Mariners here in Seattle because one positive case, of course, there's a fear of other transmissions. So the Seahawks, they test every single day, the players, and thankfully they haven't had any outbreaks yet. They haven't had any positive tests, and the players, I think, have done a really good job of just staying, not being too social. And it's challenging, most of these guys are in their 20s. They have some money for the first time in their life. You want to go out. You want to have fun. But they're even more diligent about their career and taking care of their teammates and each other. And so they haven't had any positive tests, thank goodness. Of course, that could change. But yeah, the bubble, Stacey, that they've put around the team so far has been pretty effective.
Yeah, and Pete's been very protective of the team with regard to making sure that bubble stays intact and has integrity. So
yeah, absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
I heard about that a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, and one thing that's interesting is I mentioned there are no preseason games. It seems to me that a coach like Pete Carroll is particularly well suited to dealing with that because he was one of the most successful college coaches in history. Right. They don't have preseason games in college. And if you lose a game in September in college, your national championship hopes are done. So Pete Carroll knows what it's like to get a team ready for game one. And I just think for him, he's probably going to tap in a lot to his USC days and his college coaching days to make sure that the Seahawks are ready on day one.
Is the press the only one at the VMAC right now? They're not letting in.
Yeah, they're not letting fans in, and most of the press, the berm, the grass berm where the fans usually sit, most of the media is up there, and then they just give a very few select number of passes to media to be on the field. And again, those people have to go down, get COVID tested 24 hours in advance every single time that they want to get down on the field. So yeah.
Is that an NFL rule or a Seahawk rule?
That's a good question, Stacey. I think that is a Seahawk rule. I don't know if the league has mandated it. Of course, teams are going to handle things very differently. The Seahawks have said no fans at CenturyLink the first 3 games of the season. The Kansas City Chiefs have said we're going to have fans. We're going to be socially distanced. They're going to be at about a quarter of their capacity at Arrowhead. But the teams are being given some latitude on how they're dealing with this, bizarre set of circumstances here in 2020.
Yeah, I was in shock last night watching the Sounders game with my son, and Real Salt Lake had fans in this stadium, and it was something I hadn't seen in months, and it blew my mind. It was more distracting that there was sparse fans than no fans.
I know. Well, it's so weird. I'll give you another example. In Iowa State is playing football right now. Iowa State University. The University of Iowa is not. So even within states, based on the conference that they're in, they have a different set of rules. So everyone's just flying by the seat of their pants, and nobody knows what the absolute right is, and everyone's just trying to figure it out as best we can.
So what happens to if we do get the news that somebody is tested positive for COVID-19? Is the team done for 2 weeks? Are they shelved, or what happens?
It depends on if they test positive. It depends on what the level of exposure between that person and their teammates has been. If they've been on an airplane together, that's going to be a little more challenging. But they would then test all of the teammates, which they do daily anyway, and see if there are any other exposures. And then that individual who tests positive would be quarantined for several days. I'm not sure if it's 10 or 14 before they could rejoin full activities as well.
What is the feeling you're getting, the sense of the players and their wanting to play? Because there's been a lot of stories about college players and how, maybe they want to play, but they're scared to play, and, others are making those decisions for them. But at the professional level, what is the feeling between the athletes?
Oh, they absolutely want to play. In fact, there was a hashtag a few weeks ago from NFL players stating just that they want to play. Now, if somebody feels like they have underlying conditions, that they're in a situation, every NFL player has been given the option to opt out. And it doesn't mean that they're cut from the team. It just means that their contract will stay in full effect, that it will just defer 1 year and kick back in a year from now. And so that's what I like. I'm all about personal freedom. And the thing about football players, I was talking to one of my best friends just this morning who played in the NFL and was one of the great Huskies of all time. And he was saying, look, there's a sticker on the back of our helmets. And they've had this sticker since he first strapped on a helmet back in Pop Warner days when he was a kid. But it says, playing football can cause injury or death. There's an ambulance that sits by the side of the field at almost every high school and absolutely every NCAA and NFL game, because there are inherent risks in playing a sport like that. And every athlete knows that. And if they don't want to assume the risk of COVID-19, they don't have to. They can opt out. If they do want to assume the risk, and most of them do because they're playing a risky sport anyway, and they feel that most of them are young. The effects of the coronavirus have generally, with almost without exception, have been pretty mild on healthy younger Americans, and so they absolutely do want to play, no question.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I'm excited because it brings a sense of normalcy that we've just been missing since March.
Yeah,
and so if there's anything that we can get back to, that would be great, and precautions galore. But I wanted to kind of switch back to game day, looking forward to next week, and without a preseason. My son and I were going back and forth on this argument.
Yeah.
Who does this favor? Does it favor the offense or the defense?
It depends on if your offense is better than your defense. I mean, I think it's going to favor the individual strengths of every team. With the Seahawks, Russell Wilson is so dialed in with his receivers, and he has had, I'm dating back to last spring, Russell Wilson has got a nice place, and I don't know how he can afford it, but he's got a nice place down in San Diego, and he has a little football field out there. And he does a thing every offseason where he invites his teammates down, and they just start working on all those little timing things that are so essential. And, you know, with DK Metcalf, the superstar rookie last year, and Tyler Lockett, who 2 years ago, Russell Wilson had a perfect passer rating when targeting Tyler Lockett. He's really dialed in with those guys. So the Seahawks offensively are going to be clicking early on. And then defensively, they got this guy, Jamal Adams from the New York Jets, the safety, and he's a new piece to the puzzle. So you're going to want to watch to see if the communication is on point right from the start. But their defense is looking strong. Their linebackers and their defensive backfield could be about the best in the NFL. So just because there are a couple of new pieces on defense, and there are new pieces on the offensive line too. So it's just going to be a question of how they've been meshing. And you're absolutely right that without the preseason games, we're really not going to know until they get down in Atlanta to see who's clicking the best.
Yeah, it might not be a very pretty football to start off the season.
Yeah, so. But you know what? It's like when they put regulators on race cars, so none of them can go over 180 miles an hour. Every team has the exact same issues that the Seahawks are dealing with, and so we might not notice a gigantic disparity between teams because they're all dealing with the same set of circumstances.
Well, I know you have a very finite amount of time, so I wanted to ask another question. Going into Atlanta, starting it off on the road on the East Coast is never favorable for us. But going into Atlanta,
I'm going to jump in. That has changed dramatically the last few years. I mean, that was the rap when Pete Carroll first came on board, that Seahawks did horrible in 10 a.m. start games, and the Seahawks don't do well on the road. And man, they have turned that around to where they have been among the most formidable. And I've talked extensively with the coach about just the strategies that he's employed to turn that around. So anyway, I don't mean to interrupt you, but the stats show that they have really done much, much better the last several years in that regard.
What do the stats show about playing in Atlanta? Because it's always a high blood pressure type of a game.
Yeah. It just looks for me, Atlanta is one of the most emotional places. It's a different stadium now than they had 8 years ago. But I was down there in the playoffs in 2012. And in fact, I left the press box and I was standing right on the goal line when Marshawn crashed in with, about 30 seconds left to give the Seahawks the lead. And then Atlanta, in those 30 seconds, got into field goal range, knocked the Seahawks out of the playoffs. And, of course, that was the springboard to the next season when the Seahawks won the Super Bowl. They were so focused after that heartbreaker. So Atlanta is one of the most emotional places for me personally that I've ever watched a game, because I really thought the Seahawks were the best team in 2012. But Seahawks are favored by 1.5 points. And, personnel-wise, the Seahawks just look far superior to me. Just when you look at position by position. And here's the other X factor we haven't talked about. When you don't have fans in the stands, is there going to be a home field advantage? And I don't know. They're going to pump in sound, but it's still going to be pumped in sound. It's not going to be 68,000 maniacs screaming their heads off. So I have no idea what home field advantage. Nobody does. What home field advantage is going to look like. And so I think that, that's the only reason that this game is looked at as being almost a toss-up. But I mean, I almost look at it as they're playing on a neutral site when you don't have fans in the stands.
Well, we're depending on you guys to get access to the field to be the cheering squad for all the rest of us.
Yeah, I know. Well, we're not going to travel to the road games this season, just to keep things as safe as possible. So I'll be doing the broadcast from here, and I'll be cheering from here, just like both of you.
Nice. Yeah. Well, it's going to be a fun thing. I only have like soccer to kind of liken it to, and I can tell that the piped in fan crowd noise is not having an impact on the visiting team.
No,
they're very high level of communication, and it's interesting that you actually get to hear all the communication that the soccer players are doing. And I'm similar, or think we're going to have similar on the football side of the coin. They're still going to be able to run their plays, so it's definitely a different situation.
Oh, it's going to be such a different vibe at CenturyLink because the Seahawks have one of the best home field advantages because of the 12s. And the other team, they can't hear the quarterback calling signals in CenturyLink Field because the fans are such an impactful force. So that's what's really going to be strange, is being there in a stadium that doesn't have that genuine noise of 68,000. It's going to be really weird to see.
Once in a lifetime. Yeah. Our final question for you, because we know you got to run, is what are your thoughts on the high school kids and the march they have going on today to Olympia?
I talked to one of the best high school players in the state on my radio show yesterday. Great kid. He's already signed with the Huskies. Has broken every record in the state. His uncle is the guy I was talking to this morning who played in the NFL. And he was so eloquent. And here's the challenge. And I talked to him about this. The schools aren't doing anything in class, and I know that the politicians fear the optics of, we can't do in-class learning, but we can do football. They're afraid how that's going to look. But there's another reality. Whether it's sports or band or drama, extracurriculars are so healthy for kids, and the stats are undeniable. You have a lower dropout rate. You have for girls, a lower pregnancy rate. For the boys, you have a lower crime rate if you are involved in extracurriculars. And I coached high school basketball for many, many years, and I know how you have this group of people that is lifting you up and helping carry you through tough times. I don't think it's personally. I don't think it's healthy for kids for 4 or 5 months now and for months to come to be staring at a computer screen like the three of us have been doing for the last 20 minutes here. But think about that, doing that or being expected to do that for 6 hours a day. And I worry about just what's happening emotionally to our kids and our families. And I get back to what I was talking about with the pros. I would prefer if we gave every kid, every family, the option of deciding what they think is right for them. And so they have 30,000 signatures on a petition as of last night. And a bunch of these kids are going to be at the state capitol at 4:00 this afternoon saying, "Let us play." And I would much rather, and there are at least 22 states in the country where they're playing high school football right now and all other fall sports, and they don't seem to be having any problems. So, again, I always go back to personal freedom of the kids and their parents making a decision together about what their individual risk tolerance is, rather than one size fits all. So we'll see what happens. But I also understand it's tough when you're not doing in-class learning, and to do sports. The optics of that are really challenging to overcome.
Yeah, very challenging.
Yep. Between us, kindergartners to 6th graders, so we're living that life right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Kindergartners. I mean, isn't kindergarten all about doing craft projects and learning to socialize I don't know how you do online kindergarten. Are you doing that, Stacey? Are you doing online kindergarten?
in kindergarten. Yeah, just started today, so we'll see. But yeah, it is like it's live, and then it's like half an hour of watching a video, and then it's half an hour of craft time, and you do these craft. But you have to have an adult there, obviously, with them all day.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, I worry about we're potting up with another family because I worry about the socialization too. There's no other kindergarten in this pod.
I know. It makes me, that just makes me sad because I just remember the absolute joy of our kids starting this new part of their life when they went off to kindergarten. And again, I don't blame anybody. I really get that everyone's trying to do what's best for our kids and for our society. I really get that, but it sure makes me sad for families and kids who are missing out on this mind-blowing experience of starting to leave the nest for the first time.
I know. I almost want to just get an RV and go somewhere.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's me tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Well, I wish you the best. I want to hear how it works out after you've been going for a few weeks, Stacy, with that.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Okay,
Thanks
all right.
We appreciate it.
It was really nice talking with you guys. I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dori. Have a great one.
All right, Keith. Stacy, take care.
Bye.
Right on. Well, there you have it. It's going to be a fun season. I'm really hoping. Say again.
I had no idea you were such a big Hawks fan.
Oh, I'm a huge Hawks fan. So I'm excited to see how this season plays out. I want to echo Dori's sentiment. I'm totally all for, if we can do it safely, let's let the kids play. I know that's been the one underlying savior for my 9-year-old is his Premier Soccer League, and I know they're keeping social distance and going through the drills. Hopefully by the end of the month they'll be playing too. So we shall see. But right on. Any closing sentiments from you going into the final day of the first week of school, Stacy?
It's way too new. I don't know. I probably should check in and see how it's going over at the pod house.
Perfect. Right on. Well, thanks for joining us. We'll catch you guys next week. I gotta find that.